Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Henry Kramer, 605 Chaser. A few things that we got to get out of the way before we get going too far is just to give you an idea of what's expected for this broadcast. We're going to go over things for today. Going to pinpoint my target of where I would chase if I was going to be chasing, and then we're going to I'll make a post on my Facebook page as to whether I was right or not, type of thing, just to see how my morning accuracies are. We're going to use a new tool that I'm working on. It's called the Tornado Potential Tool, where I can get surface observations, kind of show you how that works, and it integrates with the STP or significant tornado parameters, a bunch of other weather uh, tools. This is kind of what it looks like. We grabbed some fresh soundings, plus integrated the HRRR weather model with it. And as you can see, right now, obviously, nowhere really has any elevated risk for these areas of Nebraska, but that is definitely going to change, especially western Nebraska. Let's see if they updated the latest SPC update for tornado risks. They did. Here we go. So Valentine, Nebraska, Alliance, Hyannis, Thedford, Ogallala, even areas of down by the Rosebud Reservation area of South Dakota. I do suspect this will probably get updated and pushed a little bit further into South Dakota as the day progresses, but we'll have to see. I don't suspect anything's going to be happening really as far as severe weather goes over into areas of Sioux Falls today. Let's go ahead and take a look at the rest of the updates here. Make sure IEM bot is operating here, and nope. Let me go back to this and I'll show you the rest of the risks that got updated at 7:56, so just 4 or 5 minutes ago. As you could always trust, we're giving you the latest information that we possibly can. So Valentine, Nebraska is in a 2 out of 5. We do also have areas of western part of South Dakota that's in the slight risk for severe weather. Again, western Nebraska. We're focusing on western Nebraska because that's where I think the main event is going to be today. There are some areas, indication, like I said, possibility of some things getting up a little bit further into South Dakota, but as far as the tornado risk, that's the biggest threat is over in areas of Nebraska. So if you have friends or family that live in some of these areas that are outlined in these shaded areas of Nebraska, you definitely going to want to share this live with them so that way they can be fully aware of what's expected today. This, again, I'm just going to refresh this one, see if they gave an update on this one. It doesn't look like they updated or upgraded anything with the severe hail risk. This was updated at 102. So let me go back to this and verify. Yeah, tornado risk was updated at 7:56, so they made slight tweaks with that. Let's go ahead and take a look at the weather model, Rufus, and then we're going to go jumping right into crazy Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and give you analysis of what we're expecting to happen for the Dakotas. It's going to be yet a barn burner day, certainly going to be pretty risky to say the least. But the Rufus model here is going to go through today's risk. Okay, as we get into around 6 p.m., this is a look at 23Z today. 6 p.m., we do have a few of those storms showing up there. Let me get back to that. It's one thing I don't like about pivotal weather is like if you move your mouse just a little bit, it really messes with it. So right here is what we're expecting to have some storms brew up over into Pennington County area, just north of there by the Sturgis area, and extreme northwestern portions of Nebraska around 6 p.m. As we progress that a little bit further, you can see it gets more numerous. Excuse me, 1 second. It gets a little bit more numerous here into northwestern Nebraska, and it starts to build a line. You'll be able to see that here in a little bit. There, did it again. Goodness gracious. It starts to build a line right around 10 p.m. And then you still got this major cell down here. Let's take a look at that and see what that brings us. We can't look at the Rufus there, but let's take a look and see some specific areas that might be of interest here. So we do have an area. This is critical angle is 178, so this is going to be a very weak tornado. Nonetheless, supercell numbers here are 11.5, but where is this? This is where I would target if I was going to chase today and not work. This is going to be where I would target. Pull that up here. Antioch, Nebraska. Let's go ahead and pump that in here. Zoom it out here. So the boys, I'm sure, are already all over this, and probably, obviously Freddie is from Nebraska, so he's not got a whole lot of way to travel. So even if it's a bust, it's a bust. So this area here definitely makes sense to kind of target somewhere in there. But again, this would be the area right where that bullseye is where I would end up targeting somewhere within the next, within 25 to 50 miles of that area. So Alliance, Nebraska, even all the way up to Gordon. Although I think by the time it gets to Gordon, it's going to be more of a wind event and rain. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Let's look at the risks that we have throughout for the rest of this weekend. But first, before we do that, let's take a look at the satellite loop. Live look at geocolor here. We can certainly see why they have this risk outlined for tornadoes there. There's a couple of different areas of tornado risk, but I think this is the smaller, obviously, of the two. And I think the sure win, if you're going to want to get a tornado captured today, this would be the area that I would definitely target. Obviously, much larger area, a lot of clearing, and some storm clouds are trying to already move in this morning, but hopefully that doesn't hinder it for this afternoon's craziness and into the evening. If that does, then we're going to definitely have a little bit of a struggle with that target. So you could also see to the southeast, there is definitely some clearing there, all the way down into Wichita, some higher base clouds there. Let's go ahead and take a look at our risks for South Dakota. We've got to go over to the AM12K. All right, so we have marginal risk for, this is for day 3. In other words, this would end up being your Wednesday into Thursday. I do suspect that they're going to push this to a slight risk somewhere within this green, darker shade of green. This is going to be a slight risk. There is some conditions that have to play out to really see this ramp up and see how it plays out, but let me show you why. 1 second here. So this area here would be the most interest, but look at the timing of that. 10 p.m. doesn't show up until 10 p.m. So overnight type of event right now as it stands is what could be expected. So late evening, and that will be the risk based on the NAM12K. If we take a look at another model that we love to use, well, we just actually started using it, is the RAP. Take a look and see how far that goes out. We just started using that a little bit, and that doesn't go out far enough. So that only goes out to the 5th, 3 o'clock in the morning. Really doesn't show a whole lot. Looks like it actually starts showing some of this show up up in Dickinson, and that's kind of where that front's going to be moving from, and eventually impacting areas of Sioux Falls. So really don't have a whole lot of information on this other than my suspicion, which my intuition seems to be fairly on game lately, is that this area here, somewhere in this big green blob, is going to have a slight risk and likely going to have a tornado risk, at least a 2% risk in there. Now, the big thing that we got to watch out for is day 4, or not day 4, day 5, sorry. They already have this put out here. You guys saw it on my Facebook channel or page. I can't really go out a whole lot on this because it gets a little dicey, but the fact that they have this type of a risk on a day 5 is pretty nuts. They don't usually put this stuff out that far. So they are starting to gain some confidence. Let's read some of the discussion here. Um, During the late week time frame, a mid-level trough is forecast to develop over the Pacific Northwest and move eastward into the northern plains. As the system approaches, a moist, unstable air mass is forecast across the northern plains. So we got that ingredient. Threat from Thursday evening into overnight period. That's what I was talking about. Isolated to scattered thunderstorms may again develop Friday afternoon and evening as the exit region of mid-level jet moves across the northern plains. As instability becomes maximized on Friday afternoon, a severe threat will be possible across parts of the Dakotas and Minnesota. Large hail and severe gusts will be the primary threats. The models are in reasonably good agreement on the timing of the mid-level system. For this reason, have added a 15% into the northern plains. So we'll have to see how this plays out. Sometimes models start agreeing and then sometimes they just go all crazy. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But the fact that they already have an agreement is just nuts. We could have Watertown 2.0 up here. As you guys know, we did chase that tornado up in Watertown areas, but this is going to be on the edge of the Watertown area. So we'll have to see. Friday could be a chase. Friday, Saturday. Thursday, I got to work. Wednesday, I have off. So if something happens on Wednesday, I could end up chasing that day. We'll have to see how that plays out. But let me go ahead and take a peek at the models and show you the dew points. Here's what the dew points are going to do. These are in the 60s and 70s. I'll show you that visually here. And we'll play this out and show you again. I know we're focusing on South Dakota, folks. I know there's a lot of folks that are in Nebraska that are following here as well. We'll back this up a little bit. As you can see, that moisture is getting pumped and juiced in right in here over by North Platte, Pierre, South Dakota. It's like squeezing a big old juicer, getting as much a juice out of the south as we possibly can. And then we got this much drier air over here. Look at those dew points. I mean, very dry air. And they're going to clash today. And not going to lie, it's going to be pretty darn impactful as it gets into the late afternoon, early evening. By the time you get to 11 p.m., I have a feeling things are going to be pretty well soaked up with that moisture taking over. Let's go ahead and take a look at, I'm not a fan of the GFS, but in order for us to be able to see this far out, we're going to have to do that. Show you what these dew points are expected to do here on Friday. All right, as we get to, oh, look at that. Would you look at that? Oh my gosh. That's some crazy numbers there. 76 dew point. Look at this moisture that it's going to be hanging on to. I mean, we're going to probably have some flooding again. That is almost certain with these dew points in the mid 70s, upper 70s. This is by 7 p.m. on Wednesday. And yeah, 50-degree dew points over here. Let's take a look at significant tornado parameter numbers. I don't think this has it. No, it doesn't. We could look at EHI. That could give us a good idea here. Back this up a little bit. EHI. Excuse me. So some significant numbers here with EHI. These numbers indicate that there's definitely going to be a wind threat in here for Wednesday. And then as we get into a little bit further into the weekend, got a couple of areas, Miller, South Dakota, Sioux City area east of there. This is as we get into your Thursday. So multiple days of crazy weather for the plains. One of these systems could hinder the other system and how it reacts. So you've heard me talk about it before, the capping of the atmosphere. If clouds don't move out quick enough, and we don't get that clearing that we need, there could be some of these storms that don't fire off. So the main thing that you guys need to be aware of is over this week, starting really essentially if you're in the western portion of South Dakota, starting today and all the way through the weekend, for parts of South Dakota, North Dakota, Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota. You all need to definitely stay weather aware because this is going to be some crazy stuff here. It has the potential to have some crazy stuff. If we look at GFS, we'll see how that plays out here. Definitely got to keep an eye on this puppy right here too. This is pushing it a little bit later on the 10th, so Saturday into Sunday. So we'll see. GFS is a little temperamental. Let's take a look at the risks that we have as far as day 6. Now they don't have anything. 7, 8, yeah, they don't usually. You'd have to be pretty darn high of an agreement to go that far out. But let's take a look at the risks for your flash flooding. Marginal risks, unless you're in areas down to the south, extreme south, in areas of like Atlanta. These areas here, so if you're in Atlanta area, Macon, Columbus, these all are going to be expecting 3+ inches of rain, isolated areas of 3+ inches of rain as you're in that slight risk for excessive rainfall. And that's going to be playing out later today. Already had a little bit of storm development there, just to say the least, but these are slow movers, not expecting anything severe other than the threat for the flash flooding, which obviously can be pretty severe. Let's go ahead. Whoops. We don't want to go to the tracking of the hurricanes yet. There's nothing really going on yet. Day 2, we continue to see that risk here for areas of Atlanta, kind of the same areas. Be curious to see what day 3. I bet you they have this up in South Dakota here. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. Minnesota. They're putting day 3. I think they're going to change that. Yeah, they're definitely going to change these as we get a little bit further. All right, since I'm over in this area, I'll kind of talk about the tropics, obviously. This area has 30% 7 days over the next 7 days of tropical development. So we are starting to watch this. We'll have to see how this plays out. I don't want to scare anybody, but if you have folks that live along the Charleston, Savannah, that South Carolina and Florida, east coast of Florida and east coast of Georgia area, you definitely want to keep an eye on this. Anytime we start getting into August and September, obviously that's when hurricane season really gets going. There is obviously a much greater chance out here of development, 50% over the next 7 days, and really expect things to ramp up as we get further into August here. So stay weather aware. We're going to keep an eye on these as well. As far as this development, obviously not anything real huge expected. They do have a 60% chance, but I don't suspect that these are going to impact Hawaii. We'll have to see how it plays out. I know it shows that the track is kind of there, but I don't suspect that they're going to. I feel that they're going to move more northeast or northward as it gets closer to that area. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and take a look at the current temperatures and see what's happening over here in areas of South Dakota. We do have mid 60s and fairly cool, but with that 63 dew point in Mitchell, South Dakota, certainly makes it feel a little bit warmer. Not going to lie. Areas of Sioux Falls, we do see 64 and 60-degree dew point, so you can already see some of that moisture is moving on in. Areas of Nebraska, eastern portion of Nebraska, cool temperatures there with 60s. And let's go over here and see what we got. We got some development here, but this is really not the main event. This is just stuff that's possibly going to hinder that development from happening until later. Again, want to remind folks that are in here the tornado risk that we have. This is outlined right there. So this is going to be primary event later this afternoon after 3 p.m. I would actually say after 5 p.m. as this cloud cover is going to hinder some of that development from happening. But it's only a 2% still, and I don't suspect that they go up to a 5% unless some of that cloud cover really, really moves out of the way really soon. Otherwise, it's going to be really difficult for things to get going. Moisture is going to kick in through here from the south, and that's when we're going to really get things sparking up and get pretty spicy over in the Alliance area and even all the way over to Hyannis. Those are some areas. Right here is, again, this is kind of the area that I would target for tornadoes today. So if you have folks that live in that area, make sure that they're weather aware and they stay tuned to the weather. I'll be working my full-time job, so I won't be able to broadcast, unfortunately, but still wanted to give you that information. So here's the numbers. Okay, as you can see there, this is a look at the soundings. The potential is there. We have a ship number. Also, STP number is very low. The fixed number, anyways, is low, 0.2, but the STP SIN number is 1.1. Supercell 11.5. The critical angle 178. Not gonna lie, that's kind of weak. If it was like in a perfect world for tornado chasing, 90-degree angle would be sick, but we'll have to see how that plays out. The other thing that I want to show you is the bulk shear or the shear and why we're suspecting this to be ramping up here. Let's take a look at what time the shear shows up. So it looks like it shows up sometime around 8 p.m. So we could have some hindering clouds that are causing the issue, 82 knots, and in this area here. But I would suspect that we're going to really have things ramp up between that 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. time frame if you're in western portions like the Sandhills of Nebraska. 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. right here too. Let's take a look at that. Marginal tornado possible. Obviously, these change. So if I were to punch this in, let's take a look at what area of South Dakota that would possibly be, not east. Be right over the line. That would be south of Martin, South Dakota. So if you have anybody that lives over in Martin, South Dakota, would want to have them be weather aware as well. Let's take a look at some more soundings here. We can take a look at Texas and see where that development is. Again, this is a tool that I'm utilizing. It's still in the testing stages. Let's see what it brings back for tornado potential. It takes a minute for it to load because it's loading every single surface observation area within the state of Texas. So it's not just looking at one specific area. Cue the music for Jeopardy here. Taking a little while. Like I said, it does take a while. Plus, I'm overworking it with 3 different monitors here. All right, while we wait for that, let's go ahead and take a look at radar omega here. Again, this is an area of concern as well, but in my opinion, I think the big risk is going to be up in areas of western Nebraska. Let me show you the HER model here for this area as it went through an update. There we go. Lonely cell there. That looks interesting around 8 p.m. Wonder which one of the boys are going to be trying to grab that one today. If that just plays out, I can see why they ended up doing that. Significant tornado parameters on this. Uh, 6 p.m. today, right up here. Doesn't look too bad. I don't know. For one lonely cell, doesn't really trip my trigger. Again, let's take a look here. And again, this is just based off of one weather model. Definitely have more of the instability shot up here. If those darn clouds don't mess with it. Instability is much broader. All right, we're going to show you what we have here. So, Morgan's Point, see how it comes back and returns tornado favorable. San Luis Pass North, you can't see that in there. Lizzie, University of Texas at Austin. I don't know why I'd be pushing that. Oh, that's because currently it's got some of these other numbers here. See, it needs some testing, definitely for sure, but either way, it's kind of a neat tool to utilize. Gives you all the surface observations and then pulls in HRRR, or you can actually change it to have it bring in the wrap. I'm trying to work on pull in other weather models and pinpoint which one's going to be more accurate. So we'll have to see how that all plays out. But nonetheless, this is what we're expecting today. Again, this is the tornado risk that was updated at 7:56 this morning. And that's what we got here. So I'm going to let you all go, and I'll try to do my best with updating you guys later today for areas of western Nebraska, but I'm not going to lie, it's going to be a little tricky. Some things have been getting a little crazy at work, um, making sure things, people are doing their job, that type of thing. But I'll give you more details tomorrow morning. And I'm not sure what time, but it'll certainly be early tomorrow morning on here for what the risks are and how these have changed. But definitely stay weather aware if you're in western Nebraska and western South Dakota today. This is the overall outlook from the SPC. Certainly can see all the way over into Billings, Montana area. That's slight risk or a 2 out of 5. But the main kicker is here in western portions of South Dakota and western portions of western and central portions of Nebraska. That's all we got here. God bless and stay safe, everybody.